I think that some of those questions are really germane. You were asking about prostate cancer and saying people don't talk about things, there's not publicity. Well, certainly these bowel diseases are something that there's not publicity for in general, and that's where my research interest started, because we have people with pink ribbons for breast cancer and other coloured ribbons for other things, but we want to have a brown one with blood speckles on it. But we couldn't get anyone to wear one of those. You make a research observation, the question comes out, the data come out, and then you can sometimes fix things. We then got interested because we saw that a lot of these things were around fear and perceptions and anxiety and depression in what is the psychological effect of having these diseases, and do mental health problems interfere with you getting good care and engaging in care in a way that keeps you well. And what we found was that it did, make you sicker, make you more likely to be admitted to hospital, come to hospital more often, have more problems, and that a lot of these problems were avoidable. And the whole issue with drug companies has already come up, but this paper, this was about what are all the things in IBD which we're not talking about because no one is sponsoring the research. And this is the single paper that I've had the most communications from other people about. And I was even asked by colleagues at a meeting one year, oh, do you have Crohn's disease? I said, no. I said, well, we just thought you must have because this paper really, affected us so much when we read it. And this was just all coming out of patient stories. And I think the things that are really important to see is that this woman now runs an IBD service. This gentleman now runs an IBD service. Peter Bampton now works with us here, and Gerald Holtman runs a whole health service in Queensland. So doctors are really interested in doing this well. And organisations like the RAH Research Fund and you as donors are the more likely supporters of this sort of work because it doesn't involve patents, it doesn't involve drugs, it's not sexy, and no one makes money out of it. But we know that mental health problems are very common, they do influence the need for care, they're associated with worse outcomes, and we can pick these people if we look because they've got characteristics we can recognise. I'm getting the wind up, I've been too passionate. What we did show though, which is really important, is this isn't a negative message, this can be helped. So then we published a paper showing that if we implement a chronic care model with nurses, with protocols, with a helpline, we can actually stop hospital admissions. People don't come in as often, and when they do come in, they don't need to stay for as long because it's more planned. So that saved money in the health system. But then we also showed that it made things better for patients. So again, this has come full circle. Although nationally, we still don't have funding for IBD nurses in Australia. So if anyone has Crohn's or UC, write to your federal minister. Now, just turning briefly to irritable bowel syndrome, this is really important, and even in the introductions, one of our doctors got it wrong. Irritable bowel syndrome is lots of symptoms, no lesions to find. The bowel looks normal. Inflammatory bowel disease is where the bowel looks awful, it's red, it's bleeding, there's pus. But these people have just as much impairment in their quality of life as people with inflammatory bowel disease. And we found out we had very poor communication with these patients. We were using really poor diagnostic language, and that people were not having a good experience. And then we trialled a non-specialist dependent way of managing the requests for help and the referrals, and another PhD student developed this up. And the good news here is that this is now a web tool that anyone can access. We did not lock it down just for doctors. If your GP wants to use it, or if you indeed want to find out about IBS, this is the place to go. And this has been put together by experts around Australia. So should we actually intervene and offer mental health care for people with inflammatory bowel disease? Well, in our institution, we approached 500 patients, and it ended up that nearly 20% of our people who were in normal routine care needed and accepted mental health intervention. And this is the paper that was published from this, and this is a brand new initiative sort of worldwide, so South Australia is groundbreaking here, and we've shown not only do patients feel better, but it's again saving money and saving emergency department encounters.